Welcome to this new photography tutorial video. Today we're going to work on this image of a brown-hooded parrot. As always, first we're going to apply the lens corrections for the image, and now we're going to do the crop overlay. So for this image, remember to hit the L key to turn off the background. And here I want to work on focusing on the face or the head of the parrot. So I'm just cropping down and then I'm flipping with the O key to see the different recommendations, let's say, on the different compositions that we could do. This is the golden ratio, and usually I use it when I want the point of interest to be closer to the center of the frame. And this is the rule of thirds. Let me flip again. I'm just trying to see which one looks better. This is going to be closer to the center. And I kind of like how it looks right now. Just reducing a little bit the size of the frame to get more of the parrot. Okay, look at that. Okay, looks good. I'm going to leave it like that. Next thing we're going to do is remove any spots. By clicking visualize spots, we can see there's a few. Just one that I'm going to remove. I think other than that, the image looks very, very clean. Now we're going to go to the basic panel, and the first thing we're going to work on is the temperature. So I'm going to move the slider to the right to make the image a little bit warmer. Remember, with double clicking, you can reset back to the original value that you had. And now I'm going to play with the tint a little bit. If I go to the left, the image looks greener. If I go to the right, it looks redder. So this is just a matter of personal taste on how you want the image to look like. I think right now plus 18 looks good, looks very good. Okay. Now let's work on the highlights. Let's reduce the highlights and see what happens to the face of the parrot. And as you can see around the eye, this white area, we can see more details. Let's say kind of wrinkles that the parrot has. And I'm going to leave it all the way down, and I'm going to all the way to the left, and I'm going to play a little bit with the shadows. And again, see if there's anything that I can do to bring it up. I'm going to leave it as plus 22. And then by holding the Alt key and moving the whites slider, I'm trying to see again if there's any clipping on, if there's any pixels that are, let's say, burned. And with the blacks, I'm just trying to see if there's any pixels that are too dark. So I just like to play with it a little bit to give some extra contrast to the image. Now we're going to play with clarity. And remember, I don't like to push this too much. It can really alter your image. So usually around 10 or no more than 10, I think I like. But for this image, I'm just going to leave it in 0. I don't think it creates any big differences. The haze also, I like to play with it just a little bit. It enhances the contrast of the image as well. And I'm going to leave it in plus 10 right now. For vibrance, remember, I like to push it to the right just before it starts looking strange. But I'm going to leave it in 0 for now. And let's try to look in the detail panel how we can make the image look sharper. It's already very clean. The background is very good. So the first thing we're going to do is apply the masking by holding the Alt key and then moving the slider of the mask all the way to the right. Remember that what's black, it's excluded. What's white is where we're going to apply the sharpness. And I only care about sharpening the feathers of the parrot in this case. Okay, when you zoom 1:1, you can really see the effect of the sharpening adjustment. So I'm going to leave it in 70. It's kind of a good value to use. And then luminance, you just want to push it like around 30. I think again is a good value. It's a good balance. With this switch, you can check what's the impact of the changes that you have done for the detail panel. You can turn it off and on. And I'm going to push the luminance a little bit to 35. The color, I like to do it all the way to 100 usually. For this image, I think I'm going to do it to around 75. I think it looks fine. Okay, So let's look at it again. Hitting the L key, I turn off the background. Hitting the Y key, I can compare the before and after, before on the left, after on the right. And you can tell that it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Okay. Let's see what else we can do with this image. Let's now work with the adjustment brush. And this is why I didn't touch the vibrance before. I'm just going to adjust the colors on the parrot itself. So with the brush, remember to click show selected mask overlay on the bottom. I'm just going to apply the brush on the parrot. In this way, the adjustments that I'm going to do, they're going to be just focused on the area that I'm painting with the brush. Everything that's red that you can see is where we're going to apply the effects. Okay, here you can be as careful as you want, making sure that the area of the image that you want to retouch or to edit is properly painted, right? Everything that's in red is what's painted, and that's where we're going to apply the effects. Okay, very good. Well, I paint something that I really like about this image is the negative space that we have on the left. And the second thing that I like about this image is that I'm telling a story. That's very important in photography. And in this case, I'm telling the story of the parrot eating plantain. For that reason, number one, I want to have some of the plantain on the image. And I'm not going to clean the beak of the parrot. I want to show that it was actually eating. It was in the process of eating. Okay, very good. Now that we painted with the brush, let's start playing with the adjustments. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the clarity on the parrot. And you can see right now, only where I painted is where we are changing things. That's where the adjustments are taking place. So I'm going to leave clarity on 7. And now I'm increasing the saturation to bring up the colors of the feathers of the parrot. So you can see the before and after. When I double click, it resets to 0. So just play here and leave it at a point where you like it. This is also a matter of personal taste. You don't want to do it too much because it's going to look unnatural. I think around there looks good. Let's play Y. Let's hit the Y key to look at the before and after, and look at the difference. Look at the definition that we have and how the colors are brighter. They're more saturated after this adjustment. Now let's work on the sharpness again. Let's see how this changes. If I can get more detail on the feathers. Remember to zoom to 1:1 to have a better idea on what's going on in the image, to look closer at the changes. And I'm going to increase the sharpness. It's like around 10 right now. I think it's a good value. 11 looks fine. Then I'm just playing with the noise, trying to see if there's too much noise, if I need to apply this effect, if it's over sharp, let's say. But I think that's not necessary. Again, the image is very clean, looks very good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And now I'm just going to work on the exposure. Remember that your main subject in the image should be brighter so that it draws the attention of the viewer. So just a little bit, I'm increasing the exposure a little bit there. And all this is happening where we painted with the adjustment brush. Okay. Always check that there's no clipping in your histogram. Okay, let's go to 1:1 again. I think it looks good. But now what we're going to do, we're going to work on the eye of the parrot. So again, what we're going to do is create a new adjustment brush, and we're going to paint the eye of the parrot. These are going to be specific adjustments just for the eye, which I have mentioned before. That's very important when you photograph a subject. Either if it's a person or an animal, you want the eye to really stand out. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do to work on the eye of the parrot is increase the exposure so that the eye again stands out. So it's just a little bit, you don't want to do it too much. Then let's play with the contrast and see what it does to the eye of the parrot. I'm going to leave it in 0 for now. Then I like to also play with the highlights and see what happens. Same with the shadows. Let's see how it changes the eye. As you can see, when you increase the shadows, when you move the slider to the right, the eye is brighter, which is something that I like, is something that I want to accomplish here in the image. So I'm going to leave the shadows in 40. And now I'm going to play with clarity to see if I increase the contrast and the definition of the eye a little bit. It looks a little bit sharper. So around 15, I think looks good. And next thing, of course, we're going to work with the saturation. We want to bring up the color in the eye of the parrot. So again, don't do it too much. We don't want the parrot to look weird, like a zombie. We just want to enhance those colors and bring them up a little bit. I think around 20, almost 30 looks good. Again, I like to play with the sharpness, gets a little bit more definition on the eye. Let's zoom 1:1 to see how it looks. Like, let's look at it closer. So that's 0, that's like 40. I think it looks nice there. And maybe we can play a little bit with the noise. I have increased the sharpness to a point where I see a little bit of noise in the eye. So let's reduce the sharpness a little bit. Let's try to find that balance between the sharpness and the noise. Okay, I think it looks good there. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, let's look at the before and after with the Y key. Let's turn off the background with the L key. Let's zoom in and compare the eye and like the head of the parrot. Look at the difference, how well defined the eye is on the right. Look at the color of the feathers. Look at the sharpness of the feathers. It looks a lot better. Look at that color, how the green and the blue stands out now, also the red. Very good. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, we want to work on the plantain on the right. But before that, I'm still reducing a little bit of sharpness and the noise. I think that the eye can still look a little bit better, a little bit more natural. I think that's okay. Okay, very good. Those are the 2 adjustment brushes that I used. Let's see what else I can do here. I'm just increasing the contrast a little bit. And here you can spend as much time as you want. I usually like to try many different things until I feel I have the result that I want with my image. Let's leave it around 22. Okay, so very good, very clean background. Our main subject looks very sharp. It stands out, but there's one more thing I want to do. And the plantain on the right, even though I'm using it to tell a story, it could be a little bit distracting. So I'm just going to do the adjustment brush. I'm going to paint the whole plantain here. And we're going to work on it so that it doesn't stand out as much. Remember that when you are using the adjustment brush, if you hold the Alt key, you can delete what you painted. So that's what I'm doing right now, just being very careful. So I'm reducing the exposure on this adjustment just for the plantain where we painted. I want it to be darker so that it's less, it doesn't compete. The parrot is not going to compete with the plantain, and that looks very, very, very good. Here's the before and after again. Look at the difference in the plantain. I think it's a great image. I'm going to leave it like this. This is a new thing that I'm sharing with you today, how to just do localized adjustments in Lightroom. Look at the eye and the difference in the eye. It's just amazing. And again, look at the feathers, the colors, and the sharpness of the feathers is very, very good. Yeah, I think that's it for today. I hope that you like this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, and until the next tutorial.